Welcome, book nerds. Today I want to talk about Babel, the amazing book by R.F. Kuang. This book has slapped me in the face so hard. This is probably the best book I have read all year. It is such an amazing work of fantasy fiction that it is 100% a masterpiece. This book is perfection. Now I want to talk about R.F. Kuang for a minute. She penned The Poppy War, the amazing trilogy that is nothing like this book. This is not The Poppy War. And there is a very good reason why this is not The Poppy War. When COVID hit, the author fell into a deep state of depression, and she didn't know if she could keep writing. She had no drive, no desire to write about god weapons and the gods taking over and all these massive fantasy tropes that she had written about so well. But she did start writing again, and she wrote Babel. I've talked about the author before. I've talked about all her degrees, and one of which is from Oxford University. And Babel, or the Babel Tower at Oxford, is about Oxford University in the 1800s. So let's talk about the book a little bit. The main character is a boy named Robin. He is a Chinese immigrant who has been taken on as a ward by one of the professors at the college and is now enrolled at Oxford. This book is really about fitting in. It of course has a magic system. It's R.F. Kuang. She writes fantasy, but this is more a book about fitting in and not fitting in. The main character is a Chinese immigrant and going to a school with only a few other Chinese students at the school. They're mostly white students, white Englishmen. Robin really has trouble trying to find a place to where he fits in. He does find a place eventually. He gets in with a cohort of students and builds this great friendship. Robin was not just Chinese. That isn't the one thing that really made him the outcast. It was how he was raised. He's poor. All these other students come from all these giant families and are important, and that is kind of the link to the Poppy War. The main character in the Poppy War was the same thing. It was just a nobody. Everybody else came from these great families. So there is a link right there. At the same time, Robin is pulled into a different society, a secret society, and that's really where the book starts to kick off. And I want to talk about the magic system a little bit here. This book is low fantasy, meaning it's in our world, Oxford University, 1800s. So it's kind of like a historical fiction book. Now, the magic system is based on languages, based on translation. You have to be able to speak multiple languages fluently, not just I've learned this language and now I can speak it. The magic won't work for you. You have to be able to speak the language. And you infuse silver with language. And depending on how you speak to the silver, it can do certain things. There's so many countless things that the silver can do. And society depends on Oxford to produce this silver. It depends on the government, depends on Oxford to keep the silver flowing so that they can function. And the way this book is written is so masterful. It's 100% my favorite book I've read this year. Babel, pick it up. Read fantasy.